Hello, everybody. It's Friday, and Friday is Friday Fire, where I talk about all the fire stories from the week. And boy, do we have some fire stories. Thank you, TNT Tesla, Sean Donnelly, K8, everybody for being here. It's been a rough week, but it's Friday, so that's good news. Let's get into the story. This one's called Fiat Down, Melt Up. And it'll make sense in a few minutes, and not financial advice. And Paul UK, main man. I think I'm going to join Patreon. Thank you, Paul. Anyway, let's get into the fear and greed for the crypto market. By the way, Bitcoin, as I speak right now, is $104,600. It's been chopping around that 105K level for quite some time. And that is one of those sticky levels. But you know what? 105K ain't bad. We're north of 100,000. So if anybody who is upset about the Bitcoin price, remember, we are 6 digits. Okay, so I don't want to hear that you're upset that it's not that it's not higher, because it's pretty high. Anyway, now a little bit of Bitcoin on chain stuff. Again, this video will have some darkness in it and some light, but I'll start with a little bit of the light. And I wouldn't call this hopium, but there is a small chance that if you look at this chart here, there is a lot of cumulative short liquidation at the level north of especially $110,000, $111,000. If there is a big move to this level, all right, after that, there's not much Bitcoin available for sale, first of all. Second of all, the shorts will be forced to scramble to cover. And that could take us on an impulse north of $120,000 really fast. But again, we have to get up $6,000 first and fast. The question is, can it happen? I don't know, but the setup is there for it to explode, everybody. Explode. So watch this space carefully. Now, there's more treasuries. Every day I say, there's treasuries. Hey, Benny, good to see you. This is Justin, a guy called Greg Kidd, who invested in both Twitter and Square. Has bought a company called No Inc. Never heard of them before. And his plan is to buy 1,000 Bitcoin worth over $100 million. And this is not stopping. Again, each time a small, tiny little company comes in and buys 1,000 Bitcoin, that displaces 1,000 whole coiners. And by the way, $100 million is what retail investors would spend, tens of thousands of them over years and years. Okay, that's a lot of money. And again, more treasuries keep knocking on the door. And this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. Treasuries was on my bingo card in 2024 for this year. However, the pace of these treasuries astounds even me, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, I never ask for likes, but hit the like if you can, and it gets other people to see this video, because there's some stuff in here that people do need to see and need to be aware of. Now, another group. Let me see. Did I? Yeah, I got the spelling correct. TM, Trump Media. They were originally going to raise $2.5 billion to buy Bitcoin. Well, you know what? They decided, we're going to add another $10 billion to the ante. So Trump Media, his company, is trying. Hey, Abrasive Justin, good to see you. It's all of a sudden trying to raise $12.5 billion. And I know. Yeah, I love him, I hate him, and a lot of crazy stuff went down last week, or yesterday. We'll touch on that. But $12.5 billion is a lot of Bitcoin cheddar. Maybe, and my theory has been this, they want to raise as much as they can to buy as much as they can, because they want to front run the strategic Bitcoin reserve by the US government. And we already have Pakistan front running the US government. All right. This is a crazy time to be alive. Crazy time to sit back and watch and hold your Bitcoin, and you hold your Bitcoin in one hand and your popcorn in the other, and enjoy the show. Preston's here too. Good to see you, buddy. Now, this was a cool thing. Bitcoin for Corporations, they did a very detailed post on exactly how Palantir needs to deploy some of their cash position. They have $2.1 billion in cash. Now, Palantir is interesting, but I didn't like them for two reasons. One is kind of ethics, and the second one is extreme stock-based compensation. They line their pockets extremely well. And that's something that doesn't sit well with me for a company. However, Bitcoin for Corporation said if they were to deploy half of their cash, they could be a top 10 Bitcoin treasury. So again, sometimes people from the outside try and urge these companies to deploy their cash. And there's so many companies sitting on huge amounts of cheddar. That is just a big, fat, melting ice cube. Shout out to Warren Buffett. What has he got? $360 billion melting away. Anywho, there's lots of other companies that need to do this, and the pace at which these treasuries are coming is something to behold. But let's get deeper into the story. TikTok next block. Shout out to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has produced one block every 10 minutes without missing a beat for over 15 years. Everybody, TikTok, boom, super reliable. And that is a feature. And as Lynn Holden says, nothing stops this train. It is a very, very reliable piece of technology. And by the way, I've dispelled quantum FUD a million times on this channel over the years. It's still bubbling up again, but Michael Saylor dispelled it one more time as well. It's not a threat for 5-10 years or more. Okay, so don't worry. Don't listen to the FUDsters trying to shill their whatever quantum stock or coin or whatever. It's not going to happen. And the other thing that I've said before many times, and it was very nice to hear Michael Saylor say it too, if there comes a time when quantum computing is powerful enough to hack Bitcoin, that means everything around the planet, everything is hacked. We're talking military systems, the Pentagon, bank systems, medical systems. Everything is toast if that happens, okay? So again, stop feeding into the quantum FUD for Bitcoin. It's rock solid. Now, another piece of good news too, ETF giants have a very low cost basis. Shout out to Sanjay as well for sharing this. But the cost basis of the ETFs for Bitcoin, from all the bagging that they've done since these things launched in January 2024, BlackRock as holders, the average cost basis is 69,200, and Fidelity holders average cost basis is 57,400. So the Fidelity folks got in early and they are holding. But what this is also very important to know is, especially that number 69,200, I always try and analyze and find, and I remember numbers like an elephant, confluence between numbers. Guess what the price was on the 4th of November 2024, the evening of the elections? It was 69,200. Okay, that's the cost basis of the average BlackRock holder. And many believe that could be the floor. And if history repeats, okay, the US election shows you the floor of the Bitcoin price at that given date, and the price never falls below that level. So for those who are hoping for a $50,000 Bitcoin, that may not happen. Just a point of confidence here. Maybe 70K is that bottom, again, if history repeats. And we have somebody here, Larry Fink's my dad. Hey, Jane, well done. Larry Fink bought 10% of the Circle IPO too, which has been a success as well. They get to buy it at like $31. And then the plebs get to buy it at $84. So we'll see. Speaking of Circle, there it is. Larry Fink owns 10% of it. Again, the Circle IPO is a success. Let's check on the actual price right now for Circle. Circle, 107. Oh, it has fallen down a bit. It did go pretty high today. I shot up to, how did it go today? 125. Now it's down at 107. But again, big success. These things print money. Stablecoins are big. And Circle IPO, if you look at how much market share they have, it is approximately, let me make sure I get these numbers correct. I can't remember, but I think it's 67%. The 37% to Circle and 67% to Tether. But anyway, it's like 2/3, 1/3, and the rest is crumbs. So shout out to Circle. And stablecoins are huge. It is definitely the biggest use case for all things crypto. And the crypto industry has long sought the killer app to bring blockchains to the mainstream. But check this. All the big tech companies, the Mag 7s, the Apple, the Twitters, the Airbnbs, and the Googles are all having conversations as we speak about how they can bring stablecoins into their world. It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. Crypto is no longer this fringe bunch of crazies like us, it's going heavy mainstream. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Yesterday, there was a spat between the US president, the world's so-called most powerful man in the world, and the richest man in the world, Elon Musk. And a lot of people think it was contrived, it was orchestrated, it has a different meaning behind. Again, these people don't do things by chance, but that could be wrong. Maybe it was just a bunch of emotions spilling over. Maybe because Elon left Doge, he ceased being useful. I don't know. But anyway, it was a rough day yesterday. The stock fell 15%. And people think, oh, end of the world. But by the way, on the 10th of March, it did the exact same thing. So it's not unhistoric. It happened less than 2 months ago. And here we are. So for many, people think, oh, it's the death of the grave dancers or death of Tesla. I don't think so. I don't think anything has changed. And it's very important. There's a reason. I'll get back to this Tesla story in a second. Don't worry, but I want to point this out. There's a reason we are in assets we are in. Yes, they tend to be very, very volatile and very scary. However, if you don't like any of that and you can't stomach it, you can buy some bonds or some MSCI or whatever, S&P 500. This is a map from Fidelity of the performance, risk versus return, 2021 to 2025. All right, the top left, the little thing up there around is gold, averaging about 16% over that time frame. Then the Mag 7, up higher again. And then on the top right corner, there is a thing called Bitcoin. It smashes everything else. And then I fixed this chart. So Jury and Trimmer, if you're watching, sorry, I added MicroStrategy, which smoked everything by many multiples. And just for the record, these are the things that I own for a reason. Yes, they are volatile, but they also have the most return. Mag 7, Bitcoin, MicroStrategy. That's the way I play the game. But, you know, if it's too much for you, you can enjoy some of the 4% return stuff down here as well, especially when debasement is about 14%. Anywho, a little bit of bad news too. I'll put myself in the top left corner. Capital is fleeing. And this is kind of a little bit concerning. 44 billion in stocks and 180 billion in treasuries is gone in weeks. And that treasury piece I want you to focus on, because foreign investors did pull out 44 billion of US equities in April, but they're coming back, okay? Because that's where the performance is. Remember this previous slide? The international investors see this. They know Mag 7 is where you want to get the alpha. And yes, it's volatile. But capital is fleeing, and foreigners dumped 180 billion in treasuries. And that sent the 30-year yield to nearly 5%, a very extreme record high. 30-year return, 5%, because nobody's buying these puppies. And there's more macro problems too, but I'll circle back to that in a second. I want to get back to the spat first of all. This is from Thomas Massey, and he said the rift was inevitable between the US president and Elon Musk. You don't land rockets backwards or get cars to drive themselves. I won't finish the last part. Anyway, it was just, you know, sometimes there's just not a match. But anyway, all good in the hood. And Dan Ives, shout out to Dan, he said, we believe this fight in the sandbox between Musk and Trump, sounds like two children playing in the sand, will soon be resolved, and this feud can end, and Musk can focus on Tesla and autonomy, and Trump can focus on Trump stuff as well. So, and Dan said as well, Tesla is way oversold here. In fact, Dan Ives last week came out with his new price target of over $500 for Tesla. Tesla right now is trading about 300. So let's move on. And Tesla's still chucking away. They just secured a big deal today. Shout out to Sawyer Merritt. Mega pack order worth $500 million for Clearway Energy in Utah. Okay, these things are selling like hotcakes. They become a necessity, especially for the AI world and the energy world as well. And if that wasn't enough, okay, shout out to Jeff Lutz too. This is quite an important point. The Chinese now are granting licenses to US automakers, and that's a very, very big deal. Tesla has already in limited form been operating in China and will also be granted these licenses. Okay, this is so important for the rare earths, the things that are needed in cars, magnets that drive motors, etc. This is really, really, really important. A lot of people were concerned. In fact, I shared a news release that Germany is very concerned that they're going to run out of batteries, and that could bring their auto business to a halt. And that would be very, very scary as well. Anyway, moving on. Another good harbinger for Tesla and autonomy. And yes, I've got 2 Teslas. They both have FSD. They both blow my mind every day. I haven't pretty much driven since last year, and people think it's not real. But when you have a version AI4 FSD, then you have an edge, as people say. You know what's coming. And people say that robotaxi is not real. Well, it is. But the other good news is Waymore has exploded in terms of adoption with driverless trips in California. They're up to nearly 800,000 paid driverless trips in California. And they've also been running in other places too, like Scottsdale, Arizona, and others. So it's taking off. People thought, there's no way somebody's going to get into a car without a driver. Yeah, actually, they prefer it. Anywho, another harbinger as well, because I always talk about the convergence of crypto and AI and now social as well. We know that XAI, formerly Twitter, has their banking licenses for money transmission across about 42 to 44 states right now in the US. And now they're just adding stock market data too with Grok. Soon, you can bookmark this. I believe your social will not only be your bank, but it'll also be your financial advisor. And it'll tell you, it's like, hey, Grok, what stock can I buy today? Oh, I think Tesla's very oversold, or I think Palantir is worth it, whatever. I don't know. This is coming. The world is changing very fast. Watch the pace of change. It's exciting and terrifying. And speaking of exciting and terrifying, Neuralink, Ark Invest, they have a thing called Ark Venture Fund, which can give retail investors exposure to Neuralink. And I covered as well yesterday, the day before, that they had a new pre-money valuation of $9 billion. Well, Ark Venture Fund has just invested in Neuralink as well. And they're doing incredible things. And this is helping people. It will help people who are blind, people who are paralyzed, and so much more. And who knows, maybe we'll all have some type of Neuralink in our bodies to help us handle different types of things as we get older. Who knows? Anyhow, U.S. officials are going to meet the Chinese in London on June 9th. June 9th is a Monday. It could be volatile. Remember last time, I think the Chinese left for lunch and the reporters are freaking out. Oh my God, the Chinese left the building. The deal is dead. Well, Besant and others, I think Lutnick as well, are going to be meeting in London with the Chinese officials to discuss a trade deal. This is very, very good news, I believe. And I think they'll figure something out too. We're already seeing some little glimmers of hope as well around this too. Now, time to get into some of the dangerous, scary news. This is a record buyback. I mentioned at the beginning how interest rates were high, etc. Well, the Fed printed more money, devaluing our currency, and then used our taxes to buy the debt that they created. We're getting hit twice. Politicians, the Federal Reserve deserve more scrutiny. That's exactly, by the way, coincidentally, no such thing as coincidence, what triggered the spat between Trump and Elon. Elon said, nope, you're spending to infinity. This bill is garbage. You got to stop. It's full of pork, which is wasted money. And that's what triggered the whole fight, everybody. This is what triggered the fight. The out of control spending. The deficit will be running nearly $3 trillion a year. Okay. That's, for every taxpayer, I can't remember what it is, like $60,000 or $70,000 per year in extra debt per taxpayer, because very few people actually pay taxes. Most people actually receive benefits from the government. Anyway, this is going down the path as well of what happened in Japan. USA is becoming Japan, buying our own debt because nobody else will buy it. Okay. And it's never happened before at this level. This is $10 billion in one day. 10 billion. I remember as a kid, $1 million was a lot. Now $10 billion is like nothing because we're talking in trillions, but it's still $10 billion is still a lot. And US spending, this is another key chart as well to be aware of. People need to make cuts. The problem we have, though, is cutting any of these things is going to be painful because there's only 4 buckets that matter, everybody. These 4 buckets: defense, Treasury, which is interest on debt, which is going to be $1.2 trillion, Social Security, and health. It's very hard to cut these benefits for people. There'll be outrage. You could cut defense, but then you become weak. And you could cut interest rates, but then you need Jerome Powell to be on your side. Either way, it's a mess. But there's no other place you can cut across all of the other areas. But something needs to happen. Or else get hard assets, because Fiat's going to zero and your hard assets will go up. And that's a key part of the story. And as I mentioned, nobody wants to buy the debt. Okay, this shows you U.S. economy has been, depending on the data you look and what Jerome Powell looks, it talks about the economy being resilient, especially through all kinds of shocks. We saw Silicon Valley Bank blow up in 2023, and we thought the world was dead after that, but it wasn't at all. And here we have another sign: the 10-year Treasury is jumping sharply again as payrolls refuse to validate recession. Okay, Jerome Powell needs to see data that tells him things are bad, but he sees data that tells him things are good. He did say in his last meeting on Monday that he's going to revise the type of data they look at, but this is bad, really bad. He's got to cut now. Another example of things that are really bad because of high interest rates. In the United States, over 12% of all credit cards are now 90+% delinquent. That's bonkers. The banks are going to take an even bigger hit when these people will not be able to pay their credit cards. They already can't. And many bank credit cards have a rate of 19.99% or 29%, etc. They're screwed. They're never going to see that money again. And that's it. And then you got your student loan mess as well. And unemployment is growing despite what you hear out there, in the fairyland of unicorns and everything else. Household unemployment dropped to 700,000 versus 461K plus prior. And that is not good. Household employment, I should say, not unemployment. And another view of unemployment, not employment, is we now have the highest unemployment in 43 months. That's the raw data. That's unemployed divided by the labor force. And the BLS report goes to one decimal place, but the raw data shows that this is the highest jobless rate in 43 months. This is a problem. And I believe AI has a lot to do with it. Also, the tariff tantrums have delayed some investments and hiring and everything else. It's not good out there, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm going to end on a happy note. The meme of the day. This is from Geiger Capital. David Sachs at the White House right now. Mommy, come get me. I'm scared. Pick me up. I thought that was funny. Like it's hard to believe that, the most powerful man in the world with the richest man in the world are fighting over things they should be aligned on. Anyway, with that, everybody, quick 20-minute story covering all of the fire things of the week, and get ready for next week. That trade meeting in London is very important, as well as recovery and many different things. And all we need is one big sovereign to come in and try buy a big bag of Bitcoin. That'll take us to 111K, and then we go straight to 120K. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Thank you all for coming. Thank you to Mods in chat, TNT Tesla, Sean D, Preston, American Beijing, or K8, and everybody else. Hope you enjoyed the show. Take care. See you all tomorrow.